Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague from Georgia for yielding time. The question before the House is, should the House now consider HRES 231? While the resolution waives all points of order against consideration of today's measures, the Committee on...
Penalty will suspend. The chair notes a disturbance in the gallery in contravention of the law and the rules of the House. Sergeant-at-Arms will remove those persons responsible for the disturbance and restore order to the gallery. Gentlelady may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the resolution waives all points of order against consideration of today's measures, the Committee on Rules is not aware of any violation of the Unfunded Mandates Reform Act. This is a dilatory tactic. These measures will protect our farmers, ranchers, and business community from a massive federal overreach being perpetrated by the EPA, approve our FY16 budget that puts us on a path to rein in reckless spending and reform entitlement programs, and protect the religious rights of D.C. employers. As a mother, a woman, and an individual of prayer, I'm very glad that we're here today defending life and our Constitution consistent with our congressional prerogatives. Mr. Speaker, our colleagues across the aisle act shocked that we're debating this issue. But what is truly shocking is that we need to be here today at all discussing whether to grant employers in the District of Columbia the rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment, but we are. And I would further like to point out to our colleagues across the aisle some of the words of the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted. Mr. Speaker, we are not talking about discrimination against people here. We are discussing the protection of innocent life. It's under the authority, as members of Congress, we have a heightened responsibility to protect the rights of D.C. residents because the Constitution in Article 1, Section 8 gives to Congress explicit jurisdiction over the country's seat of government. It is under that authority that we consider HJRES 43, a resolution to disapprove the action of the District of Columbia Council in approving the Reproductive Health Non-Discrimination Act of 2014, or RHNDA. Our country holds as its most fundamental freedom the right to practice freely one's religion and associate with others who hold the same beliefs. It's unthinkable that we could allow the leadership, if you want to call it leadership, the people in control of our capital city, to infringe on that right for the millions of Americans who live or work inside its borders. But that is what RHNDA does. It tells churches, religious schools, and advocacy organizations that they may not make employment decisions based on their own core principles, including the respect for precious unborn life, a principle that is central to many of these groups' entire belief system. Cloaked in language purporting to prohibit discrimination and promote tolerance, this law targets these organizations and tramples their rights to exercise their views on the respect for life. In truth, this law discriminates against and promotes intolerance of anyone who disagrees with the worldview of the majority of the D.C. City Council. It is not discriminatory for a church or religious school to believe and preach that life begins at conception. It is not discriminatory to practice these deeply held beliefs. That is, unless you're in the District of Columbia. This law may force religious organizations to relocate outside the District of Columbia in order to protect their rights. Given the clear hostility the City Council has shown them and that we have heard on this floor today, that may in fact be the ultimate goal. When we take our oath of office as representatives, we promise to protect and defend the Constitution. That includes protection of religious freedoms, and is why I support H.J. Res. 43, which disapproves RHNDA. In order to allow the House to continue its scheduled business for the day, Mr. Speaker, I urge members to vote yes on the question of consideration of the resolution, and I yield back the balance of my